Hi, welcome to Computer World Canada. I'm Shane Schick. Over the summer, there was a storm of controversy about eHealth Ontario, the province's electronic health records initiatives. When Auditor General Jim McCarter released this report in October, our readers reacted with criticism, suggestions, and even some support for the initiative, which continues to draw headlines every other week. Computer World Canada editor Dave Webb took some of that reaction back to McCarter in this exclusive interview at the Office of the Auditor General.
Based on media reports, you'd think that we have nothing to show for the $1 billion spent on Ontario's electronic health records initiatives. But one of our readers, Aaron Blair, called the coverage sensational and irresponsible, and he gave us a long list of accomplishments that were delivered in the project. And when I interviewed you a couple weeks ago, you did say yourself that a lot of that money was well spent. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I felt, I've read the headlines too, Dave, indicating that, $1 billion was misspent and we didn't get anything for $1 billion. And I indicated that I think that's a little bit unfair. I don't think there's any question that we certainly didn't get full value for $1 billion. Probably hundreds of millions of dollars we didn't get value for. But on the other hand, we did get a lot of value for some of that money that was spent. We've got an IT infrastructure there now, but I'd have to conclude though that we certainly didn't get $1 billion worth of value. But to say we got no value, that really, whether you want to call it sensational reporting, I don't know, but it probably wasn't quite fair.
Reader Robert Shook said alarm bells should have gone off because the project was run by medical professionals rather than technology professionals. Do you agree?
My sense in kind of running the project, and you'd probably know this from your IT background, that a key part of any project is you have to make sure that you have the users heavily involved, which would mean you do need the medical people, you certainly need the IT people. But I would say as far as the overall management of the project, it's more important that you have someone that's had experience overseeing and managing complex IT projects. Essentially that understands the whole system development process, understands the type of oversight that you need, understands that you've really got to target the deliverables and have benchmarks. And so I would say probably you just need someone with strong project management experience would probably be more important. That person could come from the medical side, they could also come from the IT side. So I'd probably say, I probably would not necessarily agree, but certainly what we indicated was that there clearly was a lack of oversight over the years on this particular very large complex IT project.
A number of readers pointed out that there seemed to be a case of NIH syndrome, as in not invented here, and the initiative could have adopted the best practices and applications and components from what has been developed in other jurisdictions. Would that have been a practical approach?
I'd have to say, Dave, that certainly on a number of the audits that we do, we constantly suggest that the province should be paying more attention to what's being done in other jurisdictions. And often when we benchmark, whether it's benchmarking the development of a large IT project, whether it's looking at the operation of operating rooms in a hospital or how drinking water plants function or snowplowing, we would typically look at how others in other jurisdictions do it. And, I'd have to say that the most recent strategic plan that I have seen, I think they have looked at what's been happening on the other jurisdictions. And quite frankly, I hope they continue to do that, because I would probably agree with your readers that we shouldn't overlook what's being done in other jurisdictions.
If there was one fundamental flaw in the initiative, what would you say that was?
I'd probably, I'd very quickly say there's probably, to my mind, four pretty fundamental flaws. The first one would be really a lack of a good strategic upfront planning. As you know, in doing IT projects, it's absolutely critical you get the front end right before you go charging ahead spending money. There was clearly a lack of oversight on this whole project. I felt that it was out of sync the way it was developed, in the sense that you had the IT infrastructure being developed almost independently from the applications. So we had the situation where you've got the IT infrastructure up and running. We use the analogy of a highway. You've spent all this money building a highway, but you've got nothing to go on the highway. So obviously no one's using it. And the last thing I'd have to say is that while we do believe that some consulting expertise is necessary, there was far too many consultants on this project, and there's a real lack of oversight of the consultants to make sure that you are getting good value for money.
And what are the first steps, do you think, to getting this project back on track?
I think the key thing is the development of a really strong strategic plan so that you know where you're going. I'm always a big believer in the fact that first and foremost, you want to focus on the needs of the user. We've seen far too many large, complex IT projects where at the end of the day, they don't meet the needs of the user. And to my way of thinking, if you're looking at the success of a large IT project, the most critical thing is not whether it came in on time, it was not whether it met budget. The most critical thing is did it meet the user needs. So quite frankly, you can have a project that comes in on budget and it's completed on time, but if it doesn't meet the needs of the users, the business needs, I would call that a failed project. So I think that's the key get right at the very start, that you've got a really sound strategic plan, you know where you're going, and you've consulted the users.